Jim, the other one? Downtown?
Yeah, hitting me.
Oh, okay.
And I'm actually going to be right now.
From which, like
From KFC.
Cool. We'll be having a meeting on Sunday.
If I can keep
She's so excited. She was like,
keep my fingers off this.
Yeah.
okay, the clock shows 4:30, so I'm going to call this special called meeting for June 20th of the Board of Trustees of Calloway County Public Library to order. First item of business on our agenda is public comment. We have one person signed up for comment. It's Jennifer Morrison. You have 2 minutes.
I think I speak for quite a few people in this audience when I say that I'm completely opposed to the way that the 3 new board members were put onto the board. The Kentucky statute reads that any vacancy occurring in the terms of office of members shall be filed for the unexpired term by the county judge executive with the approval of the fiscal court by appointment on recommendation of the state librarian and commissioner of 2 named persons committed to the provisions of library services and living in the county where the vacancy occurred. As of the 6 people that were recommended for these 3 positions by the judge, not one had sent in an application for membership to the Calloway County Public Library Board. How does the judge executive know that they are actually committed to the provisions of the library service? Also, the 6 people that were recommended and the 3 chosen by the judge should be committed to the provisions of library services. How can that be if I've heard that they may not all have library cards or use their library cards or have been attending these meetings in recent memory? It also says that the board shall be committed to representing the county as a whole, and if these 3 board members were handpicked by the judge executive, they do not represent the county as a whole.
Thank you. There's no further public comment signed up, so we'll move on to the next item of business. That's the minutes of the previous meeting. The board will entertain a motion. We've got a copy of that. Manon has provided you with a copy of the April minutes. Those were not approved at the last special called meeting, so we do need to take care of that. The board will entertain a motion to accept those minutes once you look through them or make adjustments as needed. So
I have some adjustments to recommend.
okay. For April?
For April 11th, 2018, in the second paragraph on the first page, it says, attending were board members Riley Ramsey, Secretary, Jeff Gentry, Treasurer, Larry Tucker, and Audrey Neal, trustees. That statement there does not indicate who presided at that meeting, and I believe that it should indicate there as to who presided, since the president at that time was absent.
I think that's taken care of in the sentence prior to that, where it says the meeting was called to order at 4:30 p.m. by Riley Ramsey, Secretary. I mean, if we need to explicitly state that he then presided over the meeting, we can amend the minutes to reflect that. But
I think that would be a good idea, because this is clear to us today, but someone looking at this 20 years from now, we'll all be gone and out of the picture. And I think that needs to be made clear. And also over on the top of the second page, it reads, Gentry made a motion to move forward with the Essential Plan Plus project design and construction for $6.4 million. Neal made a second. Tucker voted nay. The motion carried. Now, it is assumed there that that Gentry and Neal voted in the affirmative, but it doesn't say that. And I believe that it should indicate what the votes were, both in that first paragraph and in the second paragraph as well. And so I wasn't here at that board meeting, but others were, and I believe the minutes should reflect those positive votes explicitly.
So what we need then is a statement to amend the minutes to reflect. Let's do them separately so that we have one amendment to reflect that Riley Ramsey presided over the meeting in the absence of President Rick Lampkin, and then we need another amendment to include the details of how each board member voted for the Essential Plan Plus project and the proposal for professional design services from 5253.
Right.
So if we can get,
You want 3 motions?
let's get 2 amendments, yeah. I don't think we need 3. I think we can do both the motions for the details together.
All right, I will so move. Second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Dr. Rose, seconded by Mr. Walker, to amend the minutes to read in the first paragraph that Riley Ramsey presided over the meeting in the absence of Rick Lampkin. All in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
I further move that we rescind and vacate or hold in abeyance all the actions of the April board meeting to provide time to study these manuals that we've been given, look at the architectural proposals for expansion, and to study the comprehensive strategic 5 to 10 year needs of the library, because I think that we've got a 2011, a 2013, and a 2015 strategic plan, and what I've read in here says that it needs to be updated every 2 years, and we don't have one for, I take it back, I don't think we have one for 2015 and 2017.
Right, which
and we
is-
should be working now on 2019. But again, my motion is really to hold in abeyance all of the actions taken by the board in the meeting of April the 11th, and it either might be vacated or held in abeyance until we can study the issues and come up with a plan that supports the strategic plan. That's my motion.
So first of all, we need to work on the amendments as they are. Your motion, the way it lays, we're not addressing any of the items in terms of moving forward with the renovation. That's not business on this agenda, so it's not something that we would be moving forward with. Even the Essential Plan Plus and the professional design services, that's not something that we're addressing right now and moving forward with. We're going to take
The reason we can't address it right now, Madam Chair, Madam President, is because we didn't have a regular meeting this month. And I'm really confused, by the way. I've been on a number of boards, and when a special call meeting was in order, the special call meeting was in addition to the regularly scheduled meetings, and I don't understand why we haven't had a regular meeting this month, and we went right to a special meeting to handle one piece of agenda when you have 60% of the new board are new people that have that much to study, and I've tagged as much of it as I can. But the fact of the matter is, I haven't been able to get to all of it yet. And therefore, I would like to make that motion, and I think that according to Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary order, because there wasn't a regular scheduled meeting this month, that motion is in order. Do we have a parliamentarian?
We don't have a parliamentarian.
Okay, then nobody could stand and say that that motion is not in order then.
If you can't read the stuff, you're not.
They can't. Only this board can address this.
So,
My motion is that we vacate.
but we have a
Or we
current
hold it.
motion to amend the minutes on the floor. They've been seconded, so we need to move for a vote on that
You
first.
just
and
voted
then
a
you're
while
open.
ago.
No, we
was
didn't
not
finish the
voted.
vote. You jumped in before we
Okay.
finished.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote on that then, and then I'll address this issue.
Okay, so the motion as it stands on the floor, we voted all in favor aye to amend the minutes so that we will have the notation that Mr. Ramsey served in place of Mr. Lampkin. If it's your willingness to, instead of making the second amendment that Dr. Rose opposed, if you want to jump in with your motion now, you're
We can
welcome to
address
do
Dr.
so.
Rose's amendment. I thought we were addressing both of them on the first vote.
No, that's not how it was
Well,
stated.
let's address the second one.
So we need an amendment now to include how everybody voted for those two paragraphs, for the two proposals, the two motions that were made.
So moved. Second.
So it's been moved by Joe Walker, seconded by Dr. Rose to amend the two statements that are on page 2 of the minutes to include the individual voting designations of all the board members. Let the minutes reflect, all in favor of this signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The amendment carries. So let the minutes reflect that Gentry voted yes, Neal voted yes, Ramsey voted yes, Tucker voted no, which is already stated, and that serves for both of those statements. So the minutes have been amended. Do we have additional motions to either accept the minutes as amended?
Again, I make a motion that we rescind or vacate that entire meeting, the actions taken, in order, at the April board meeting, in order to give it adequate time to study the manuals, the proposals for expansion, the study of the comprehensive strategic 5-10-year needs of the library, and time to examine the rated priorities with regards to meeting expansion.
So,
Thank you.
do we have a second for that motion?
Which motion are we talking about?
This one
His
I just
motion to
made.
vacate the minutes, to vacate the entire April meeting.
Why?
523, or 52,
No.
53.
No, that's not what
My
he
motion
said.
is to vacate or hold in abeyance all of the actions taken by the board at the April 11th, 2018 meeting in order for us to have time to look at the plans and determine what needs to be done to further the goals of this library.
So if we second that motion, you're getting rid of accepting the March financials, you're getting rid of the director's report, you're getting rid of the changes we made to the employee handbook, you're getting rid of the director evaluation, budgets, anything that took place there, you're saying we're going to vacate that, and that would all be,
I'm saying vacate or hold in abeyance.
You've had time to read the manual.
I'm happy with vacating all of them. I'm
There's no
sorry.
reason for you to be here, because if that vote
is
didn't
there a
happen-
second for the motion currently on the
Should-
floor?
They're out of order if they're gonna address this.
You've been out there.
Is there a second for the motion that's currently on the floor? Hearing none, motion fails for lack of a second. We'll move on. Do we have?
Okay, Madam President.
Yes, sir.
Now, what we have, where we are, let me make
Sure.
is that we have, all we have done now is approve the minutes of the previous meeting
We-
as amended.
Right. Well, we just amended them. We haven't approved them yet. We
Okay.
need to do that. We need a motion for that, sir.
All right, now I will so move.
Okay. Second? Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Rose and a second by Mr. Walker to approve the minutes of the April meeting as amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay. Let the minutes reflect that Mr. Kennedy voted nay. Motion carries. We approved the May minutes at that special called meeting, so we will not need to approve those again. Those were done at the end of that meeting before we adjourned. We'll move on to the next item of business, which is the financial report. All of the board members have a copy of those documents. They were sent to you in advance. You had some time to look through those, and then Gwyneth will actually walk through those with us now. And once we have walked through those and looked at what's going on with them, answered any questions or concerns that you have about them, then we can move to approve those as they are.
Okay, hopefully the first one in your packet is the April balance sheet. And I'll just go over the balances that we had of the end of April. In our contingency fund, we had $90,504 and some change. The building reserve fund had $2,855,771.18. The money market account had $1,417,178.16. And combined with our regular checking, we have total assets of $4,471,334.23. Any questions on the balance sheet? The next report is the profit and loss. Of course, I'm so used to doing this, and I know y'all are new, so stop me if you have some questions about anything. You have the listing there of the different taxes that we collected during the month of April, and our fines or charges for services and that kind of thing. So our income for April was $31,833.14. And then we started our expenses. We didn't have a lot of expenses on the first page other than for our outreach vehicle. We had some wheel bearing issues with that, and so that was kind of an unexpected expense. Moving on to the second page, we have our expenses for our materials that we purchased, and supplies, and our programming expenses. Our utilities at the bottom of that page. So our expenses for the month of April was $86,952.67. Any questions about the April? Okay, the next report in there is just one for your review. It's the previous year comparison from fiscal year 16, 17, and 17, 18 through April. That's just for your review. The next item in your packet of financials is the transactions. Those are the actual bills that were paid during the month of April. The checks that were written.
we have a motion to accept the April financials?
So moved.
Second.
Is that Mr. Kennedy that made the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy moved, seconded by Dr. Rose to accept the April financial report. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, so if you'll go through May for us.
Okay. Again, we're starting with the balance sheet for the end of May. In our contingency fund, there was $90,567. I'm gonna round up. In our building reserve fund, $2,857,741. In our regular money market, $1,268,087. Combined with the money that's in our checking account, we had the total current assets of $4,356,113.51. Moving on to the profit and loss for the month of May. Again, it's our listing of our revenues that we received from the month of May for our taxes, bonds. We did receive some in lieu of taxes in the month of May, and that was from the Housing Authority. So our total income for the month of May was $36,851.75. And then our expenses began under the administration conference. That was part of the conference they went to in April. Those were some of those fees for that. Second page again begins our materials purchases and programming expenses, which programming picked up a little bit in the month of May as we were getting ready for our summer reading programming. So our total expenses for the month of May was $143,981.78. The next report again is just for your review to compare our last fiscal year to this current fiscal year. And then the next report are the checks that were written for the month of May.
Do we have any questions about the May financials? If not, do we have a motion to accept them as
So
presented?
moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Dr. Rose, that we accept the May financials as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Next item of business that we have on our agenda is an introduction of our new trustees. These are initials, so just take a sip, that's by yours. We had 3 trustees resign, and so we had 3 members who were appointed, community members who were appointed to fulfill those terms. Filling the term of Jeff Gentry, which expires August 15th of 2021. We have Dr. Winfield Rose, and I'll just give you a few minutes to introduce yourself to the assembled community here,
Right now?
if you'd like to, sir.
Okay, well, most of you know me. I just retired at the university after 50 years in the classroom. The last 39 spent at Murray State in the Department of Political Science. I've lived here for 39 years. I was born and raised in Virginia, educated in Tennessee and North Carolina, and worked
Filling the term of Rick Lampkin, which will expire August 15th, 2019, we have Mr. Joseph Walker.
Good afternoon. I haven't quite lived here as long as Dr. Rose. I've only been here about 20 years. My background is accounting. Education was done at Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, and Rutgers University. And after I graduated from Rutgers, I went to work for Arthur Anderson and Company and discovered I didn't want to be an accounting major. And so I went with one of their clients. After 4 years in public accounting, I just basically thought I found a home. When I went to the soft drink industry, for the next 30 years, I worked for 2 different employers and became an officer of all of the corporations that I was involved with, including being corporate officer of the New York State Stock Exchange Company. I retired from that endeavor prior to coming down here, and I came down here largely to see if I could restore a resort that had been run down. I did restore the resort, but not fast enough, and I could see no future in it. And at my age, I decided I wanted to retire, so that's why I'm here. Know that there are things that are needed here at the library, and I have had extensive experience in providing those things in an economical manner that is economical manner that is basically going to be very efficient, but very efficient not only from a financial standpoint, but also from a planning standpoint. This industry is undergoing massive change due to the digital situation that we find going on in our world, and we have to do what we do here to plan for that future. And that's why I'm on the board here. I really wanted to get involved. Thank you.
And our third new trustee is Mr. Mark Kennedy, who is filling the term of Larry Tucker, which expires August 15th, 2021. Mr. Kennedy.
I'll go ahead and read from my application to serve on the Calloway County Public Library Board. And then anybody who wants copies of it, I made several. You can have a copy. They're laying right here. My name is Mark Kennedy. I've been a resident of Calloway County for 27 years. I am a member of this library. I'm a member of Willard Library in Evansville, Indiana, Central Library in Evansville, Indiana, and the Marshall County Library, Hardin Branch, because I live very near to Hardin, and I use that library as much or not more than I do here, especially since my grandkids moved back to Evansville, and I don't have a reason to bring my grandkids down here 2 or 3 times a week. So yes, I have several library cards. My educational background, I have a Bachelor of Business Administration from McKendree University in Lebanon, Illinois, with an emphasis on accounting and marketing. I got that in 1978. I have an Associate of Applied Sciences from Hopkinsville Community College with an emphasis on Management Information Systems in 1987. I've been to the Advanced NCO Leadership School with the United States Marine Corps, Military Intelligence Analyst courses at Fort Hollyburg, Maryland, Portsmouth, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, and by the way, Fort Huachuca, Arizona. I served as a unit, and I've been to unit discussion leader courses and a law book reading tutor and I've also served as a human and race relations instructor with the United States Marine Corps. I've had numerous sales and marketing classes, seminars, and quality of work life leadership training with both the United States Postal Service and when I was managing an automobile dealership in Evansville, Indiana. It's since went out of business, but it wasn't because of my management. It was because the owner sold it. I served 12 years in the Marine Corps from 1965 to 1977, including 3 years as an infantryman in Vietnam from 66 to 69, 26 years with the United States Postal Service, 5 years as a city mail carrier and temporary supervisor and station manager in Evansville, 2 years as a supervisor in Princeton, Kentucky, 5 years as a manager of customer services in Paducah, Kentucky, 3 years as a postmaster at Marion, Kentucky, and 10.5 years as the postmaster of this city. I'm the second longest serving postmaster in the history of Murray. There's only one that was more, Lester Nanny. And I was promoted on merit. He was a political appointee. I retired on March the 3rd, 2003. I've managed budgets smaller and considerably larger than that of the CCPL and received several awards for my ability to manage as much as 8 times annual budgets, 6 to 8 times larger annual budgets than the CCPL. Why are you interested in serving as a library trustee was one of the questions. And my answer was, because I believe in giving back to the community that I live in for the sake of the common good. I have taught all my children, my grandchildren, that it is important to give back and serve your community in any capacity you are able. I believe in the American Legion model. We continue to serve. What goals and directions do you feel should be important to the library board? I'm not sure at this point. I need time to study the past board actions and the strategic plans that have been implemented to this point. That's simple. What do you see as the library's role in the community? The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines a library as a place in which literary, musical, artistic, or reference materials as books, manuscripts, recordings, or films are kept for use but not for sale. I feel that the library was what it was for me as a kid growing up, a portal to the entire world, an opportunity to imagine and learn from books that were made available for me to read. A function of any library is to make available to the members of the community adequate media materials which enables the users to continue to learn. I once wrote in a national essay contest for the Evansville Boys Club that as we grow older, the more we learn, the more mature we become. I believe then and do now that the repository of the books, films, media, etc. that would enable me to learn and mature was the closest public library. I was a library and gym rat when I was a kid. I grew up on the steps of Willard Library. I'd go to baseball practice in the morning and I would have a little brown sack with a bologna and cheese sandwich and some chips. And I would go sit on the library steps at Willard Library and I would go in and I'd get the book that the librarians, they always gave me bookmarks and I never had the checkbooks out. I'd just go in and they'd give me the one that I had not finished the day before and I'd go out and finish it that afternoon and the next day and the next day and so on. Ever since Mrs. Brown, my fifth grade teacher at Evansville Columbia School hooked me on reading. I've been a devoted user of libraries. Current or past public service activities and accomplishments. Currently serve as the event coordinator and service officer for American Legion Post 73 and have 33 years of experience with the Kentucky Departments of Veterans Affairs and American Legion in counseling veterans and helping them file claims with the Veterans Administration. Previously served on the Calloway County United Way Board of Directors, including stints as a campaign chair and a board chair. Coached youth baseball, basketball, and soccer for a total of 30 years in Kentucky, and including boys varsity soccer at Caldwell County for 2 years, Greenland High School for 4 years, and Calloway County High School for 6 years. I also coached the Murray High School girls varsity soccer for 4 years. Coached co-league baseball for 4 years in Evansville, Indiana, 2 years in Caldwell, 2 years in Crittenden, and served on one of the first CASA boards in Callaway County with Dick Weaver and Donna Herndon. I'm a graduate of Leadership Murray and one of the founders with Gene Bennett of Leadership Tomorrow, and chaired Leadership Tomorrow Selection Committee for the first 10 years of its existence. Longest serving ambassador at the Murray-Callaway County Chamber of Commerce. Have received 3 Kentucky Colonel certificates for work with youth, and several Veteran of the Year awards by various organizations, including the state DAR Veteran of the Year for 2017. I'm a recipient of the Kathy Gentry Lifetime Achievement Award, the Rotary Service Above Self Award, and I have 2 Bronze Star medals and 2 Purple Heart medals that I received for my combat experiences in Vietnam. I don't feel the need to go any further, except to say I've also had 9 cancers, 2 gunshot wounds, 2 triple bypasses, and I firmly believe that God has more things planned for me because I have miles to go before I rest. And I certainly appreciate the vote of confidence for I didn't sign any kind of a loyalty pledge. I didn't sign anything. I wasn't told how I was supposed to vote or anything else by anyone, and I would not be told by anyone how to vote. Does everybody understand where I'm from? Has anybody got any questions for me? You're welcome to take copies of that if you want.
Mr. Kennedy, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How is it that you were chosen?
Pardon?
How were you chosen for this?
I was called and asked if I would be willing to serve because of the simple fact that several members had resigned from the board, and the person that asked me was Judge Elkins. And that's the first time since I've been here, and I've known him for years, that he ever asked me to serve on a board. And I explained to him, as I explained to you just now, my vote's never been bought. I'm an independent, a registered independent. I in my life at times have voted for Republicans and Democrats. I vote for the person, not the party. In this position, I plan to vote for what is right for Callaway County and the library patrons of Callaway County and the taxpayers of Callaway County alike. I plan to do what I can to make sure that things are to benefit the kids especially. And I want to point that out, the kids especially, because I can't emphasize enough how much time I spent growing up, on the steps of the library. I can't, and then in the winter inside the library. Any other questions? Did that answer your question, sir?
More than.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you to the new trustees for that opportunity for the community to kind of get to know you and your position a little bit better. All of you, I assume, know me, but I will just briefly introduce myself again, reintroduce myself. Audrey Neal. I've lived here in Callaway County for almost 12 years now. I grew up in Hickman County, came to Murray State University, got a degree in English education, was a classroom teacher for 6 years, and I've worked for Gear Up Kentucky and now Talent Search, which are both federally funded education grants that work on college access programming for students from low-income, first-generation backgrounds. I've been a library user for as long as I can remember. Of course, used my mom's card when I wasn't old enough to have a card. I actually went into the library when I was 5, tried to get a card and was told that I wasn't old enough and burst into tears and went home and counted down the days until I was 7 years old and could go in and get my own card. So I think I read through everything that our little library, which is about the size of this room, okay, in Hickman County, everything they had, I probably read through it 3 or 4 times. Read through everything that was in my school library, and if it hadn't been for those school librarians and using bookmobiles and outreach and things like that, there was no way that my parents could have afforded to keep up with the reading habit that I developed when I was little. I've always been an advocate for library, always been an active user of libraries in the communities where I live, and continue to support that, not just in terms of access to books and materials, but access to all kinds of resources that libraries make possible to a variety of members of our community, not just kids. Mr. Ramsey, who's our other board member, is not available. He's still sick, dealing with some health issues, but we will give him an opportunity if you guys wanted at the next meeting for him to reintroduce himself to you as well. So with that being done, let's move on to the next item of business, which is old business. The first thing is the 2018-19 budget. Manon and Gwyneth, I'll let you guys walk us through.
Does everybody have a copy of their budget? Does everyone have a copy of the budget?
We've got copies here if you need one.
Yeah, just give me a fresh one.
Sure, that's fine.
I'd like to point out, Madam Chair, that we're talking about a few $1 million here, and I got this in email last night, what I've got finally. And I'm sorry, this is a special call meeting to address that budget. It seems like as soon as we had the next special call meeting, we would have gotten a copy of that to study it. Instead of getting it last night, that was the current iteration of it.
I'm not mistaken, everybody had an opportunity to meet with Benon and Gwyneth one-on-one to go through the budget line by line over the past couple of weeks. Were
I
you
did as
available?
well. I did as well, but I didn't understand that was the final iteration. And this is what I got last night in email. That's what I had.
Which is the same thing
And
that
I'm
you
sorry,
went
but
over
it
line
seems
by
to me-
line with her and Gwyneth, what, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago? So I'm not trying to argue with you,
I'm
but
not
there's
trying to
a
argue with
difference
you. I'm
there.
just trying to say, hey, you've got 3 new people on this board, and we have a meeting with Mignon, and then we get the final iteration last night in emails when I got it. And I've been, I don't know, I exercise due diligence. Mignon, you remember the tabs you put in here. Doesn't that look like a lot more? Yeah, it is, because I've gone through that the best I can so far, and I have several questions that I'll reserve for the next regularly scheduled meeting. But I understand that we have a budget time deadline that it has to be in by the end of this month. Is that right?
Yes.
And, I get the impression that this board, as it's constituted now, was called to order to rubber stamp this budget as it's written.
Well,
And I've got several questions about it,
That's the reason we
but I
went
don't want to
over
go
it.
too deep in detail.
If you have questions, now's the time. That's the reason we went over it line by line when Gwyneth and I met.
I
with you.
understand that.
And then I, have told you, if you have any questions, to call
Yes.
me or email me or text me if you text. So whatever questions you have, we'll go line by line right now.
We don't need to go line by line, because
Okay.
I understand what this budget is all about. And I understand that we have time constraints. And I'm going to tell you right now that I've read this pretty thoroughly, very thoroughly, as a matter of fact, since I first met with you, and then again last night to see if there was anything that had changed and everything. I read it again all yesterday afternoon.
Nothing
And-
has changed, it's the same.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure of that, but do we need to make a motion, or do we need to approve a draft budget tonight with a raise for employees and everything? Do we need to incorporate in this the raise for employees?
Well, we need to.
Because I look at this budget and, like I say, does anybody know what the cost revenue ratio for this library is? Gwyneth?
What the what?
The cost revenue ratio on this proposed budget right here, okay? The cost revenue ratio for this library would be 1.0 .0176 to $1. That means that for every dollar we spend at this library, we're taking in $1 and almost we're taking in $1 and 1 3/4 cents. Does everybody understand what I just said? We're taking in $1 and 1 3/4 cents for every dollar we spend. If we give employees a 1% pay raise according to this budget, we are in a negative posture for cost revenue ratio. Right now, if we go with 1%. So there has to be something done to keep us from going into a negative cost revenue ratio, in my opinion. And I don't,
We are nonprofit. And so are you finding
So was the post office, and when I left
So are you
there-
finding issues with the budget numbers?
No.
Because, I mean, we're not overspending.
well, we're overspending according to what we're taking in, or we're about to overspend according to what we're taking in.
I don't agree.
Well, that are a fact, it's right there in your budget.
Right.
All you gotta do is take
We
the
haven't
costs.
gone, we're not going over budget in this budget,
No,
or
you're
have
not
we
going
in,
over.
or have we in the past?
You know, most people would recommend that a nonprofit organization such as the library have a cost revenue ratio that's anywhere between $1.05 to $1.15 minimum. And because the post office is nonprofit also, when I left down there, it was $1.98 to $1. And it's just really not that hard to, to watch your costs relative to your revenue, you see?
And we have done that.
Well, I think you're doing fairly decent, but if we give a raise to employees tonight, where you stand right now is in the hole.
So is that your issue with the entire budget, is the personnel and the raises?
No, because I really truly believe in rewarding employees that have done a good job. And from what I've seen, the people that you've got out there on that floor, every time I've been here, have been helpful, have been friendly, and have provided excellent service, and they deserve a raise.
Thank you for
But
that.
the question becomes, and I haven't had that much exposure to you other than other venues, but I like you. I shouldn't say that in front of all these people out here. But I like you, and I appreciate what you do. But I'm just saying, I'm on an advisory board here as a trustee, and I'm saying, there's things that we got to look at.
So do you have recommendations or areas that you think need to be addressed then?
No, I would never do that, because you're the director. But I do have a recommendation. I would recommend that we give the employees all of the employees a 1% raise, and then you make cuts of 3% in the total budget in the line items that you feel. And as you and I discussed, what was the one, Hulu or Hoopla or whatever it was, that we're paying, so much money a year for? And it just looks to me like there's places in here where you can take 3 to 5% out of things and get us in a better financial position. But I'm not going to tell you what line items. That's
Okay.
your job.
My question to you is, where are we not in a good financial position? In what area?
The specific area would be some of the replicated things that we're providing here at the library. As you and I discussed, I mean, we're paying, do you want me to go through and tell you?
Yes.
Okay, if you look at the Boopsy Library Discovery, how many people out here have used the Boopsy Library?
What page are you on?
I'm on page 17 of the book.
Okay. Just explain that. she's gonna
See,
get,
we're saying that we're gonna spend $6,995
Okay.
to implement that.
she's getting ready to explain this. Hold on just a second.
Okay,
Would you like for me to explain it?
sure.
That is a library app. No one here has used it because we've never offered it here. We've had patrons who have asked us for apps for the last few years, and I have explored cost for that. I had several patrons ask me, and a previous board member asked me to explore what the cost would be to do a library app. I understand how costly that is, but I did my due diligence by putting it in there to give you the opportunity to see how much it would cost to offer that to our patrons. I too think it's a very expensive.
How many people over the years have asked you about it?
Oh, sir, I don't know. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay, that's all. The CCPL website, we're paying $4,980 a year
yes, sir.
to, yeah, GoDaddy will give it to us a lot cheaper than that. I'm just saying that, you know.
Sir, may I explain?
Sure.
We once had a WordPress website. The website is an extension of our services here. That is a digital branch for us. So to have that quality and that the good service that we know that's going to support what our patrons want in terms of the electronic books and the searching and things like that. That's why we have that.
And the quality.
It is a quality. It is.
Okay.
And it does
So
include.
the quality of that website is enough to justify $4,980 a year.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to know that.
And to have somebody that will.
We have a total of $19,000 proposed for this coming year for summer programs. And I'm looking down through here, teen reading, adult reading.
What page are you on
I'm
now?
on page 15. And we've got like $3,500 for special events and workshops, but it all totals up, just so everybody knows, $73,902.35.
And last year it was
And-
$72,902.35.
Yeah, I understand that. But this year, if we're gonna give employees a raise, there's not anything in any of those things that can be cut?
We had a
Or-
raise
or
last year,
Just cut down?
and we've never gone over budget.
Well, Ancestry.com ProQuest. We're gonna spend $1,275 this year. The Kentucky Virtual Library, $4,200. Free Gal, $700, a total of $37,109. And those two pages on 14 and 15, we're sitting at $37,109 plus $73,902.35. That's over $100,000. Okay?
For reference, online reference, subscriptions, and programming that is being used to the fullest.
When we get a director's report each month that shows
I
the
haven't
numbers
gotten a
and.
director's report each month. I haven't got that.
But you should
I'm
have
gonna
copies
give, I'm
of
gonna
it.
give, one this month, I've got a copy of the one for this month, and I'm gonna get that. But $19,000 for Hoopla? Does anybody here use Hoopla or know what it is?
I
What is
use it all the time. I've used every resource that you've mentioned. I've recommended it to friends. I'm an adult summer reading member, which gets me to continue reading and studying in the summer.
What is Hoopla?
Hoopla is something you can put on
Because
your
I envision people standing around with hula hoops,
hula hoops.
you know.
Yeah. Well, you should try it out. I think you would really love it. You can get books.
Hula
You
hoops
can
or
get
the-
no. You can get on your phone and at home and electronically. You can get books. You can get CDs. I've over and over again have gotten the like musicals CDs, like Hamilton and videos as well. So people that can't always make it to the library,
use
or
it an
even
awful
if
lot?
you're and even if you're out of town, you can go on and use it. I use the library website all the time. You can go on and you can reserve books. You can find out what they have. When I was a nanny, I would look up books and be able to find what they had. So when I came with the little ones, I wouldn't have to spend, so much time. I could figure out what they're interested in now online, and it would be ready for me right when I got to the library. So I think all of those resources that you mentioned, I use all the time. I recommend them to people, and I think they're invaluable.
Also, the benefit, Hoopla, you can download the app to your phone, and so you get access to digital content that we don't have in physical format. So it gives our patrons access to more materials. They just access them digitally through that program. So there are
It's
lots of
right on
graphic
my
novels
phone
that
screen.
we don't hardly have in our collection at all, but we can get access to lots and lots of those through that app.
And Ms.
Keeps
Lynn-
us from having, because of course we don't have the physical space to add tons of sections to, what we offer in terms of materials as well. Being able to offer it digitally through something like Hoopla takes care of that.
And if you
Okay, so
I'm not trying to be sarcastic, I'm being sincere here. Miss Lynn did a really great job of explaining just those things in an interview on NPR the other day that you can download from WKMS and read about. She did a really great job about explaining those things. So thank you for that, by the way. I enjoyed it.
$19,000. I just want to point that out.
And the Ancestry also, they have had programs here before, worked with the library on Murray State's campus, and they've come and taught us how to use the Ancestry and found out.
Ancestry.com. Can't we just be a-
Well, not everyone can be at Murray State. Some people in the public need to be able to come here too. And I came and learned how to use it here at our library in this room.
To use Murray State's materials, you have to be a student or
I'm
faculty
sorry,
or
you don't
staff.
have to be a student.
To have access to online
Mhm.
things like that, you do, yes.
A lot
Yes.
of them require you to log in. You have to, that's,
Yeah.
I'll show you how to get
Failed to
Hoopla
mention,
after.
I'm a member of the Murray State Library also.
If I can comment on Hoopla, I think most libraries use it, and it's extremely cost effective compared to purchasing hard copies of so many things that they carry. So it is very cost effective, I think.
I'm just saying it's $19,000 a year in this proposed budget.
And sir, I appreciate your concern, so I am always happy to explain that to you. The thing
I'm not questioning that.
I understand.
Believe me.
The Hoopla is one of the, if you asked me to cut one of our digital services, you said to me, right now, I would like for you to choose one of those digital services for you to cut. And I would choose to cut Freegal and leave Hoopla here, because Hoopla is an app that if 5 people want to listen to the same audio at the same time, there's no waiting. We can all 5 listen to it. We can all 5 check it out. It's got the streaming. It is a per item cost. So if people don't use that service, if there's any money left, it will roll into the next year and we'll still have it. Freegal is a downloadable music service. And you can have 5 music downloads per week and you get to keep those. But it's music only. With Hoopla, you have music, graphic novels, electronic books, audio books, television episodes, and movies. You don't get to keep them. No, you just borrow them. Matter of fact, I just found Agatha Raisin and they took it back. They take it back really quick. So I'm always happy to explain, sir. I promise.
Well, I appreciate that, and I want you to understand, I'm not questioning
I
your
understand,
ability,
sir.
nor am I questioning your motivation. I'm just saying that, maybe several other looks and the opinions of several people might go a long ways towards getting some things done that this community wants, because it's a community investment, I just learned tonight, you see. So maybe we need to really consider what we're doing, because we've got a $6.4 million expansion project staring us in the face, and Where's the six, we're gonna do what? We're gonna raise taxes on people? We're gonna go out and buy bonds that the taxpayers will pay interest on? How are we gonna finance that? Or have we considered going incrementally in the expansion? Have we considered going vertical instead of horizontal so we don't lose parking spaces? Just different things like that, that maybe, I've been following this from a distance in the newspaper and everything, and I'm thinking, you know, when I come down here, I look around out here, and right now, if you go out there, there's not a lot of parking spaces left, you know?
We're not discussing that right now, but
I understand that.
most of those options have been explored. And, you know, when we come to that part as far as the building expansion, whether we do or whether we don't, we can address those things.
And before we move forward with any of that, I think we're definitely going to look at what we've done up to that point and make sure that everybody on the board is up to speed.
Well, I would hope so, because I
that.
look in here at the strategic plan, and there were 5 goals, and there were sub-goals on each one of the 5 plans. And I'd like to know where we stand on those goals. You see what I'm saying? And also, I'd like to know just what all has been examined on the strategic plan on expansion here.
Yeah, and we plan to put all that together and provide that information to you.
You have copies of the strategic plan.
I've seen the strategic plan.
Right.
But believe me, believe it, you know, the last strategic plan that we have a copy of is 2013. And the manual from KDLA says, well, I picked these acronyms up quick. But the manual from KDLA says that we ought to be updating that every 2 years.
That is their suggestion.
And the last one we got is 2013, so there should have been one for 15, 17, and we should be working right now on the one for 19.
Well, that's
on the agenda.
item B after we address the budget. So
Okay, you want to address the budget now?
that's what's
That's what we've been.
on the floor.
Yes.
I can knock this out right now. I move that we give the employees of the Callaway County Public Library a 1% pay raise for the year 2018-19, for fiscal year 19, and that we let the director cut 3% out of all of the line items, so that we don't go in the hole with regards to cost, revenue, and budget. That's the motion.
I don't understand where you're saying we're going in the hole. If the budget,
We're not in the hole yet, you know, but we're at $1.01 3/4 for each dollar we're spending. And if we give the employees a 1% pay raise, we are in the hole according to this budget.
where?
You haven't programmed in budget the rates, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, they're playing.
You pulled, what did you put in?
And it evens out.
3%
There's
is what
1, 2,
3%?
3%, and then, yes.
3 options, and even at 3%, if you'll look at pages 20.
It all balances
Four
out,
and
whether it's
20.
1,
Point
2,
of order, I
or
asked that the
with
chair call
programming
for a
and the
second.
whole.
Is there a second for the motion on the floor?
I'll second for sake of discussion.
Motion has been moved by Mr. Kennedy and seconded by Dr. Rose that the board approves a 1% raise for all employees and that the director implements 3% cuts to line items as she sees fit. Does that accurately reflect your motion, sir?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Boy, I couldn't have said it better.
Accepting the budget.
All right, now,
Cutting every line item?
The line items of your choice.
Your line
The
items.
total line item,
So total line item,
cut 3%.
That she make whatever cuts she deems necessary to get a total of 3% reduction in the budget. So it would be a net reduction of 2%. You see what I'm saying?
He said we're cutting
But
budgets.
you let, That's her job, is to run the daily operation. Let her do that.
I will speak.
So where are we putting the money that we save from this?
If it were me, I'd put it in the building fund.
So, can we get,
But again, that's up to you.
so.
All I'm asking you to do is save 2% basically. I'm saying we're gonna give the employees a 1% raise and you're gonna cut 3% here. I don't care how you do it, but there are items in there that if you look closely, you can say, yeah, we could cut that 3%, you know. 3% on $1,000 is what? $3. You know what I'm saying? Or what is it? No, it's $30.
$30.
It's
$30.
$30, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Is there not a personnel raise already budgeted?
There is, there are three different options in the current budget. There's 1%, 2%, and 3%.
So you're asking for an additional 1%?
No, I'm asking for the 1%.
Just to get the 1% that's already in the.
There's three options. There's 1%, 2%, and 3%. And I'm saying we give the employees 1%, and then, you know, find ways to cut $30 per 1,000 out of line items on the budget.
Which is the total of.
For a total reduction in the budget of 2%.
So the cost revenue ratio you're discussing is one.
And that keeps us in a positive cost revenue ratio.
With the budgeted personnel raises.
Yes.
I am so confused.
Yeah.
Of this discussion.
That, by the way, mirrors the city of Murray's raise to their employees, 1%. That does mirror theirs.
No, what?
See how that's
Each
relevant.
employee, whatever the employee is making, gets a 1% raise for the coming year.
What page in the budget is that matter addressed?
The salaries,
Uh-huh.
24 and 25.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's, yes, and then this was, City of Murray is actually doing 3%. And then Calloway
That's not-
County
Who's here from the newspaper, from the Ledger and
is
Times?
getting 2%.
Is that not what the Ledger and Times are doing? Or the Paducah Sun?
And then the area library raises for 2018, Lyon County is doing 2% for their staff, Marshall County 2% for their staff, the same for McCracken County and Graves County. We didn't get replies from Trigg County, Ballard and Carlisle, Livingston, or Hickman, or Fulton.
Because they can't afford a phone.
Well, with 90% of their funding coming from state funding.
The city of Murray is getting 2% and 3%, and according to Anita Gallimore, the county's getting 2%.
Well, I don't know what their cost revenue ratios are, but I have the same sheet that you just read off of. And I don't know what those libraries, how they stand on cost revenue, because cost revenue is a real quick way to learn your profit and loss. You take what you have proposed coming in revenue, and you divide it by what you're proposing to pay out, and it tells you your cost revenue.
That's what she did. That's what her budget is. She's
Pardon?
giving you a budget saying what they're gonna spend with the money that they get. And if it balances, there's can't be any in the hole, as long as they stick to the budget. And I've been coming to these meetings for 10 years. I have seen all the financial reports, and this library has always stayed within their budget. They have never gone over in 10 years.
Ma'am,
So
I
why
did
do you
not say that it was, that
They have been able to put money in the building fund every year I've been coming. That was the leftover money. So they have been financially very good about the way they've handled money. And I know from past experience and being a city treasurer and et cetera, a lot of time goes into a budget and a lot of thought. And when you start screwing around and taking 1% here and 3% there, and the law says this budget has to be turned in by June the 30th. When are you going to have another special call meeting to approve the budget so it can be taken in and turned into the government?
That's what we're doing tonight, ma'am. Isn't
Well,
that right?
not if she has to go back and change it. She can't change it
It's really
tonight.
not that complicated.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, it really
Sorry, it
isn't.
is. Yeah, it is.
And I'm not saying that they're losing money, I'm saying that the cost revenue ratio is.
That has
every
nothing to
dollar-
do with being
Yes,
a
it does. It
nonprofit
has a lot.
library.
And
No, it
anybody
doesn't.
that has
Okay.
a business around knows it.
Alright,
And I'm not gonna
let's-
discuss it any
let's-
further with you.
Let's stop where we are. Right now, we have a motion on the floor to, and we've had a second, so we're open for discussion. So I wanna ask, we've got two trustees who haven't weighed in much on this. I'd like to ask if either of you have questions, discussion, points that you would like to raise.
Yes,
About
I
the
do. I've been
current-
trying to get a word in edgewise here. Now, as I understand this motion, and as I said, I seconded it for the purpose of putting it on the floor for discussion.
Yes, sir.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to, goes back to the minutes point that I made earlier, is just because you move something or you second it, doesn't necessarily mean you're for it. You know, my point there. But now, as I understand this motion, we are giving Director Reed the authority to unilaterally amend this budget within a parameter of cutting 3%, not subject to the approval of this board of trustees. And that's the way I understand it. Is my understanding correct? Is that?
Yes. Your understanding is correct, Dr. Ross.
Okay.
That's her job, is to decide where she can cut.
No, I disagree, Mr. Kennedy. Her job is to make recommendations to this board, and I'm not questioning Director Reed in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I have found her to be very cooperative and very professional in every respect, very kind.
Yep.
And I appreciate that, and that goes for the other staff members as well. But Director Reed's responsibility as the library director is to make recommendations to this board, along with reasoned arguments as to the pros and cons of each recommendation. And then it is our responsibility to make this decision. We are the representatives here of the fiscal court, and they are the representatives of the people. Okay? And so, you know, I would support any raise that we can afford. If we can afford a 3% raise, I would support that. But I cannot support, and I mean no disrespect to the director, please understand that. But I cannot support giving that blanket budget authority to the director.
Right, we would have to meet again to approve the budget after she
But
amends it.
that's not what the motion said. I asked for clarification, and Mr. Kennedy gave his answer that my interpretation of the motion was correct.
So,
And it was correct. And there would not be a need for another call meeting.
Well, then I can't support it. I will not support it. I think any decision like this, anytime the director has there's some kind of problem or issue, it is, whatever it is, whether it's budgetary or something else, her responsibility is to make a recommendation to this board as to what she thinks, in her professional opinion, ought to be done.
Well, it says in this manual
Well, approval,
that the
from the
board is
board
not
to
responsible
approve
for
this
the day-to-day
budget.
operations.
No,
That's the
no,
responsibility of the
it's
director.
not, this isn't day-to-day. This isn't day-to-day.
So, let me get this correct. This is what you're saying, Dr. Rose. With the cuts of 3%, with the 1% raise for the staff, that you approved this budget with those.
No, that's not
that's what I'm
he
asking.
That's what he said.
That's what I'm asking.
No, no.
Okay.
No. No.
Let's try to get this organized. If in fact you're withdrawing your second,
No, I'm not. Then we can't discuss this.
no, but if you were to restate it the way they think that he intended it to be stated,
Or we can just, the motion can fail.
yeah,
When we vote on it, that's another way to move forward
yeah,
with this.
yeah, that's true.
So if there's no further discussion, then we can go ahead and call for a vote on this. If anybody else has any further comments you want to make on the current motion as it stands?
Yes. My comment is, I appreciate the 1%, and I can cut the 3%. We're asking for a 1% raise and a 3% cut, or a 1% raise and a 2% cut.
1% raise, 3% cut,
Okay.
which is a net of a 2% cut. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. And after those cuts have been made, the budget is approved,
That's what I'm saying.
but that's not what Dr. Rose is saying, correct?
I understand what he's saying. He's saying it has to come back to the
He
board.
think
I'm
it
saying
needs to
shouldn't
come
have
back to the board
Okay.
to be approved by the board, once
Okay.
you make those, so that we approve the cuts that you make. Mr. Kennedy wants to just give you the ability to make
I
the
wanna
cuts
do your job,
without
and
board.
you know the library better than I do, and you know where you can find 3%. I don't have a clue at this point in time, but I do know that a 1.00176, 1 3/4% cost revenue ratio is not healthy, and if we give a 1% raise, it's already gone.
Yeah,
We're
but
gone.
wait a minute. This is, the 1% applies to salaries,
Yes,
okay? You are talking about cutting 3% of the entire budget.
no, the line items in the budget excluding salary.
Well, then, okay, that's
You-
a lot of it,
Of course, that's a lot of it.
okay? So.
And that's what I'm saying, is we need to balance out. If we're gonna give a raise, we gotta find a way
Yeah,
to
but
find
the
that
difference, the difference is not 2%.
No, it's
See?
not, that's not 2% net.
No, it's not.
Because the salary is only a portion of the budget as a whole.
Yes,
So you're
I
saying
understand that.
increase that section, but cut this all 2%, which is gonna be more than what salaries
Oh,
are. So it
3%.
doesn't,
Yeah.
right, but it does, so that doesn't,
No, it just improves the financial picture to the point where the cost revenue ratio is more tenable than what it is right now. I'm just saying that, you know, we were called into session tonight in a special meeting with a deadline staring us in the face, and we've got to do something, because I don't want another special meeting this month. And if I'm gonna have another special meeting this, Madam Chair, I would prefer to have the regular meeting that month and then a special call meeting to address other things.
I'll note that
Because-
for further months. Thank you.
I don't understand foregoing a regular meeting and calling a special meeting. But again, I'm just saying that excluding salaries, you take 3% out of the rest of the budget. And let Mignon figure out where that's at. She knows better than anybody where she can get that. And when 1% for the salaries that we're paying right now is fairly decent for this year. And
I have no difficulty with what you're talking about doing, except that it has to come back to the board. And it can be a special meeting on the last day of the month for an hour.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that long. It has to
It
be
does
long
not
enough for
have
us
to
to
come
meet
back to
and
the
pass,
board
and
if
that's
we
it.
say tonight
Yeah,
that
10
it
minutes,
doesn't
you
have to
know.
come
I know, it isn't gonna be a regular meeting, it'll be a special meeting. And all three of us are available pretty much anytime, because we're so close by. I don't know about the dates.
On the 29th of June, I'll be at a hearing in Paducah to get a widow a pension. On the 30th of June, I'll be in Lexington to watch my grandson compete in the PGA drive putt, pitch and putt contest. I've got other things to do besides this. This is a volunteer position. I'm more than willing to do it.
Why does this have to be done by the 30th of June?
That's what the KDLA mandates.
No, it doesn't. No. All we have, this charge that we are giving Director Reed does not have to be approved by
No, it
June
doesn't.
the 30th.
No, that's what I'm saying, the budget.
So we don't have to have any kind of special meeting?
That's what I'm saying.
No, so-
We just need to approve a budget tonight, so that she can take the budget and send it, amend it and send it to the KDLA, is that who it goes to?
Department of Local Government.
Or Department of Local Government,
Okay.
where,
And
is that the DLGAs? Or something, I don't know,
DLG.
the DLG.
We can, I can go through this. I understand what you're saying. I agree. I would rather have it approved. If we're late,
Under the circumstances.
it affects
That's what I'm trying
our,
to say.
state funding. We have to get that in. But, I don't think it'll be August or the end of July before we can approve this.
I would think you could have it done by the 4th or 5th of July.
Well-
Have the information put together so we could do that.
And pass it at the July
And do it
regular
at the
meeting.
July meeting.
But the motion on the floor does not call for the director's recommendations or decisions to be submitted to this board for approval.
Right.
And I will not agree to that,
I wouldn't agree to that.
period. I
They
will
have
not.
to be- They have to be submitted to the board.
And I repeat for the umpteenth time, this is no reflection on Director Reed whatsoever. But it is our responsibility as members of this board to take these votes and make these decisions.
Can't make the
And I
decision.
will not surrender that to the director, with all due respect.
Do we have any further discussion for this motion that's on the floor? If not, let's call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to, let me rephrase, let me state it again. To give all library employees a 1% raise, and to have Director Reed make line item cuts to the budget from every area except for salaries. All in favor of that motion signify by saying.
3%.
By 3%, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nay. Motion fails. So let it reflect that Mr. Kennedy voted yes, Dr. Rose, Neal, and Walker voted no. Thank you. All right, so we still have before us the 2018-19 budget. If we want to take up something similar to what Mr. Kennedy proposed, but to add some additional parameters to that, we can do that at this point. Or we can accept the budget as it is, indicate the raise for the employees inside that we would like to have it reflect, and we can accept it as it's been submitted to us. I mean, There are a number of different things that we can do here, up to the will of the board.
Madam President, I'd like to ask a question of Director Reed and the other staff persons. Now, we, on page 24 here, we have 3 columns of 1%, 2%, 3%. Now, okay, I'm sorry, where's that microphone? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got it, yeah, okay. We, on page 24, we have those 3 columns over there, 1%, 2%, and 3%. And you have, well, let me put it this way. This idea of cutting 3% of non-personnel related expenditures has been suggested. And we have talked about a 1% raise, but we have some other entities, as I understand it, are giving 2%. Now, would you run through those again?
Yeah, actually, we've got.
Okay, all right, okay, right. Too many papers here to keep up with. All right. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are giving 2%. 1 is giving 3%. 1, 2, 3, 4, no reply. So, let me ask you, Director Reed, what would your reaction be to proposing a 2% raise along with this 3% cut? Would that be, do you think, in your professional opinion, and maybe you need to think about this, and it may be an unfair question, but would that be more in the long-term best interest of the library?
Well, of course, I'm gonna say yes and ways, but we can find the cuts. We can find the cuts that will still keep us with the quality and give our patrons and the community what they need.
Okay. Okay. Now, one thing, I think you need some time to go through all of this and work on it. Will we be having our July regular meeting on the second Wednesday of July? The 11th?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be feasible for you to have that done by the 11th of July?
I will have it done. Yes.
There won't be any deadline ramifications then. If it's not into the,
DLG by the 30th. We will work that out with them.
Well, can we not give tentative approval? A budget can be amended.
Yes. Yes, the budget can be amended. Absolutely.
And of course, now, you see, we've got 3 columns here. Can you turn it in to the Department of Local Government in this form of 3 different possibilities of raises? You can't do that now.
We'd have to pick one.
We have to pick one. Right. Okay.
So, So they could
Okay.
submit this with the 2%, and then we would amend it at the next meeting, and then they would resubmit the amended budget, correct? And that would meet your deadline, and keep you from getting any kind of issues there, and then we would submit the amended budget in
Okay.
July.
All right, well, let me, so move. And I will, we'll have to work on the wording of this, but I will move the approval of the submitted budget with a 2% raise
I think that's, yeah, I think that covers it.
for our staff persons. And as a part of this motion, we'll ask Director Reed and her staff to prepare a list of recommendations where 3% can be saved, and submit those recommendations to this board at its July 11th meeting as for approval.
And let me ask for clarification. Are we in agreement that the cuts come from everything, the 3% cuts come from everything
Yes.
but salaries for employees? Okay.
Yeah, well, no, don't say salaries because you get into fringes.
Gotcha, okay.
So let's just say,
Non,
personnel expenses.
okay, okay.
3% comes from non-personnel.
Non-personnel.
Line items. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Walker. Okay, so motion by Dr. Rose and seconded by Mr. Walker that we approve the proposed budget with 2% salary increase, and that Director Reed submits a list of recommendation of budget cuts of 3% for all non-personnel line items. Is there any discussion?
I think you've got it corrected. That's good.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. We still have items of business that we need to take care of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so the next item of business is the strategic planning process. In the packet that you received, we have the information from the consultant that, and his proposal, Mr. Bill Waltrip. You have his bio and his proposed scope of work. At the April meeting, we moved ahead with hiring him and paid him half of the amount to go through this strategic planning process with the board and community members as selected. That's where we are with that right now, and if the board is okay with that, we'll continue to move forward with that process. Or if you have any questions.
I do.
Sure.
Do we have an attorney for the board? Does the city attorney represent the library board? Does the county?
The county.
The county attorney is the one that has.
Should we not have a pro bono attorney?
Well, in the past, we had a lawyer that would just kind of help out and, if we had any issues. And then we've also had a paid lawyer. And he's not on a retainer, but as an as-needed basis.
Who would that be?
He's out of Louisville.
We don't have any local attorneys that would
Lewis.
volunteer to do it, pro bono work for
Lewis.
the library board?
We have had one, but when we had issues, he decided that it was not in his best interest to serve. And I checked with other lawyers in the area to see if they would be willing, with the situation that we had going on, and they didn't feel like they needed to do that or could. They didn't have enough information. Mr. Lewis is the lawyer that represented the libraries in northern Kentucky, and he's who we dealt with on an as-needed basis.
Do we have an advisory committee?
No.
Is it active? Do we have one?
No.
No? Is there a reason we don't have an advisory committee? Comprised of citizens?
I don't think there's a reason, we just haven't done that.
Well, it's listed as one of the things in here is something that's, you know, it's advised that you have an advisory committee. So I just wondered if we have one, because a lot of this stuff can be taken care of if we had an advisory committee that could give advice to the board also.
How many years has it been since we started on this project?
And the strategic plan?
On the strategic plan focused on the change in this venue?
Well, we have the 2011 and the 2013 strategic plan. It is time for us to do another strategic plan.
I understand.
Since 2011.
So 2011 is the last time you had a strategic plan?
2013 was the last time we had. Yes.
Yeah.
And so we paid money to somebody already?
Yeah, the board moved to, during the March or April, I can't remember which one, we moved to hire Bill Waltrip to conduct the strategic planning process. Yes.
I was told that we did not spend any money.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was in the March minutes.
But the strategic plan is not focused simply on the expansion. It's the strategic plan for the library itself.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but quite frankly, that's the biggest strategic part of the strategic planning that I've seen done in the last 10 years here.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
referring to the minutes of the April 11th meeting, at the top of the second page, the first paragraph reads, Gentry made a motion to move forward with the essential plan plus project design and construction for $6.4 million. That's the relevant part here. Now, I would like for someone to review just exactly what that means. To move forward.
We're still having trouble hearing you.
What does this mean at the top of the page of the minutes of the April 11th meeting? Gentry made a motion, quote, to move forward with the essential plan plus project design and construction for $6.4 million.
Right.
In quote.
Okay, that's not connected to the strategic plan, number one. Essential Plan Plus is the name of the project, the project design for the library expansion that the board voted to move forward on, to explore what it would cost to build that, to get bids, the whole building process with that. The strategic plan, which is the item of business that we're discussing now, simply the fact that we don't have a current strategic plan. Our last one was in 2013, and we chose to have someone lead us through that process because there is not someone was not someone currently on the board or employed by the library who could do that. The expansion, yes, is part of the strategic, will probably be addressed by the strategic plan, but it is not even a quarter of what we'll address as part of our
Okay,
strategic plan,
I
which are the, goals of the library moving forward and how we want to grow and continue to build the library. I mean, yes, the expansion and renovation is part of that, but it's not the whole component of that. There are a lot of other things in terms of programming, and different things like that that the strategic plan will address as well. I mean, we've got both the 11 and 13 copies of the plan, that we've had previously in here. But so what we voted to move forward, like a couple of paragraphs down there, is that we would hire Bill Waltrip to lead us through that strategic planning process.
He's prepared to come down and explain the process and set up dates and times and how it all works with the board.
May I ask what the timetable is on this? Have you got a contract signed with him and you paid the money?
He will get that set up for us, the timetable. As those are the decisions that have to be made.
But has there been money expended pursuant to this?
Yes, what, 1,200? Was it 16? I thought it was 1,250.
It was on goal 3 of the mission statement.
Which one is the?
Covers all of that.
No, but I'm just talking about the current activities.
Show up in June then?
It's not on here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the board went through a process of asking because we used, was it Mr. Waltrip that's done one of the previous ones? And then we had 2 other people that we spoke to as well that weren't available to go through the process. And so the board at the time, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, where we were, voted to move forward with Mr. Waltrip's proposal for the strategic planning process.
Where was that vote done? What minutes?
I don't know, I don't have my April minutes with me, so it would have been either March or April. April's in here, so it would have been March that we made the. Yeah, we just talked, we didn't, I think the actual motion was in the March minutes, so. I didn't bring my entire binder with me today. We just got April, so would they have up to March in there?
Got March right here.
should be labeled strategic plan in there.
Dale suggested hiring Bill Waltrip for $5,400 as this is in line with past costs of strategic planning. You're gonna cut that by 3%. Ramsey moved to hire Bill Waltrip of Leadership Strategies International to conduct a strategic planning event for us. A second was made by Tucker and the motion carried.
So all we have to do now is decide when we want to
Right. So we've moved to hire him, the board did, in the March meeting, so moving forward, we just have to decide what our timeline is.
when we want to come down to this point.
Well, I think this board, if I may suggest, would like to know what this includes, what he's proposing to do. We have seen nothing. I mean,
Well, he hasn't made his report.
Yeah, right, so I guess what we need to decide is do we want to have him come to the July meeting? He can explain that process, move forward with setting a timeline and go from there.
I would
Not if he's gonna charge more money. Just pick a date and tell him to come and bring us.
Well, to answer your question, I would say yes. If you think that there'll be enough time at the July meeting, where that would be feasible, to have him here.
If we can get a motion in to add that, to invite him to the next meeting.
That's so moved.
Second. Okay. So moved by Dr. Rose, seconded by Mr. Walker, that we invite Mr. Bill Waltrip to the July meeting to give a presentation on the information needed to move forward with the strategic plan process. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Yeah.
Ayes have it, the motion carries. Let the minutes reflect that Mr. Kennedy voted nay, the remaining trustees voted yes. Aye. Is there any other old business that we need to cover?
just for clarification. Am I to understand that we've already paid for this study? Is that what we're saying?
It's paid a percentage.
We pay a percentage.
Yeah.
A small part of it.
Like what, a
Secured.
third?
Yeah.
Like, we pay how much?
It was about a third of the $5,400, so $1,800.
Okay. Is there schedule to pay more?
Not until he,
Talks to us?
talks to us.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments about that?
About this issue?
Is there any other old business that needs to be addressed before we move to the next item of business?
Would the point that I made a few minutes ago regarding moving forward with the Essential Plan Plus, does that fall under other old business since it did not fall under the strategic planning process?
Yes.
Could you use the microphone, please?
I said, my question was, going back to the first paragraph on page 2 of the April 11th minutes, the motion made by Mr. Gentry to quote, move forward with the Essential Plan Plus project design and construction for $6.4 million. Given that we have just discussed the strategic planning process and the explanation that the building expansion process is a part of the planning process. And given the fact that this motion that was made and approved on April 11th apparently precipitated the resignation of 3 members, present existing members at that time of this board. I will move, I do now move that this decision be rescinded to allow the new trustees time to study the issue and to allow us to discuss this matter along with other matters with Mr. Waltrip, assuming that he is employed to work on this strategic plan.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we rescind the motion made in the April meeting to move forward with the Essential Plan Plus project design and construction for $6.4 million that was moved by Dr. Rose and seconded by Mr. Walker. Is there any discussion about this item?
I would just simply say in addition to that, this is a controversial issue, and we haven't been on this board long enough to get information.
You can table it.
It bothers me terribly that 3 existing members of the board at that time chose to resign precipitously from this board. I haven't determined why that occurred. And I don't know how important that is. That may not even be important. But I am just not comfortable with moving forward with a $6.4 million estimated $1 billion project without opportunity to study the matter further.
So this is an issue, let me bring up a couple things. This is an issue that the library has been pursuing in different formats through numerous board configurations. The process for considering and undergoing a library expansion and renovation rolls all the way back to like 2011. I think that's when I was on the committee, one of the initial committees formed to go and look at libraries across the state that serve communities the size of Murray. So, there's been research and lots of things for that amount of time. So this is a process that's been put off and put off and put off. Could we put some kind of a time frame on our consideration and say we're going to take this item back up at a certain point so that it's not something that just continues to get put off and put off? I understand where you're coming from in terms of wanting to have the information and know where we are and what's been done and what's been proposed and come up to speed. But I also know that there have been multiple personal and political agendas as part of this whole process, trying to derail it over and over and over again. And so I think, that if we kind of set ourselves a time limit and say,
maybe the first of the year, just
Wouldn't it be more prudent to just wait until we talk to Walter?
To table?
At least get some idea as to when he could, provide some input.
Well, Walter, for the strategic plan, yes.
Yes.
And so, before the strategic plan took maybe 3 to 4 months. So if we took it up at the first of the year, that would be in line with, and there's nothing to say after the first of the year, we can't, postpone it again.
Right.
That's true.
In fact, that's addressed in the strategic plan as one of the goals, is library expansion and all of that stuff is in there.
To answer your question, Madam President, I don't have any problem with that. Director Reed mentioned the first of the year. When I was thinking about this, the 6 months went through my mind. but that's December 20th. And I don't know even if we'll have a meeting in December. You know, sometimes groups skip the December meeting. I don't know either or not. But let me say, if you would be comfortable with this, I'm willing to say 7 months and take it up in January.
Mr. Kennedy?
I have no objection. I'd just like to throw in that the recommendation in here is that we have an advisory, a community advisory board, an ad hoc advisory board to give us advice on what they think needs to be done. Of course, I'm assuming that Mr. Waldron, being the expert in this, will point that out to us and tell us, we need to get an advisory.
And that was part of the proposal that he made, was that we involve community members as well as library employees and the board and several other folks as part of that strategic planning process.
Well, Madam President, I will be happy to incorporate that idea into a subsequent motion.
Do you want to just amend your current motion?
No.
Okay.
I think the advisory committee is a separate issue.
Oh, I was talking, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the time limit.
Yeah, okay, I can amend that, and I can say then that this motion to move forward, et cetera, be rescinded for 7 months and be revisited in January 2019. We'll say at the January 2019 meeting.
Okay, so just let the motion that's on the floor, let's just say that rephrasing it to include the information that it will be rescinded until the January meeting and the board will address it at that point. So is there any discussion?
Mr. Walker approves?
Yes. Okay, and so that's approved. Any further discussion about the item on the floor? If not, let's call for the vote. All in favor of rescinding the motion to move forward with the Essential Plan Plus project until the January meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Okay. Is there any further business? Dr. Rose, yes.
Madam President, I move that this board and the library staff take steps to explore the creation of a community advisory committee to advise this board and library staff on various matters of mutual interest.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Rose, seconded by Mr. Kennedy, that the library staff move forward with forming an advisory committee to address, and how do you want to phrase it? Sorry. To address library issues as needed. That word?
Library
Or to
needs.
inform.
In accordance with the strategic plan recommendations.
Sorry, I bungled that one, so let's rephrase that one.
Let's just say to advise the library board and staff on
Needs of the library.
on the needs of the library.
Okay.
That's good. That's good.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion on the floor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Is there any further old business to be addressed? Is there any new business to be addressed?
Yes, Madam President.
You came prepared.
I would like to propose that we adopt a resolution of thanks to to our former trustees and ask Director Reed to draft a letter to them and express our appreciation for their prior service and contributions to this institution. And we can submit this to us at our July meeting for approval.
Just the most recent board members.
Well, I was thinking of the three that resigned, and if there are others that you think would, that should receive such a letter, by all means include them too. I don't know if you've done this before or not. But it's customary when someone has been on a board like this and they leave that the new board adopts a resolution of appreciation.
I'll have to tell you, I'm unfamiliar with the process for that. Do we have to make any further action to prove that or anything, or just, I mean, does that stand as a motion?
Yeah, it stands as a motion, it needs a second.
Sure, is there a second? Okay, Mr. Kennedy, second. So, Dr. Rose has moved and Mr. Kennedy has seconded that we adopt a resolution of thanks to former trustees. Director Reed will submit that, will draft the letter and submit that to us at the July meeting. Is there any discussion?
We need a lot of whereas's and therefore.
Okay, hearing no discussion, let's go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Is there any other new business? Okay, there's no reason for closed session, I don't believe.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Kennedy and seconded by Mr. Walker that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for watching the library board meeting here in Calloway County. This is Whitney Jones, KFTC member. Thanks for watching. Let us know if you have any questions. Sign up, join us. That's Amanda Groves behind us. Say hey to Amanda. All right, thanks. This is KFTC signing out. Thank you guys. Bye.